people are very visual creatures, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, pursuing like, you know, romantic relationships. How has being, you know, legally blind, how has that affected like the type of person you're attracted to, or the type of people who are attracted to you? Has being legally blind impacted, you know, how you perceive yourself and others, and how people perceive you in terms of a potential like dating partner?
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like I've always been more like personality driven when it comes to like who I'm attracted to. I definitely like good looking people. I mean, the guy I'm dating right now is a fitness influencer, so obviously he's like very good looking.
Nice.
But I would say when it comes to, you know, if we were like rating people like 1 to 10 on like attractive scale, like I've dated people all along that scale. I'm very like personality driven. I have to like vibe correctly with somebody. So for me, like I would say I can still, so like when I'm next to somebody, and I mean like physically next to somebody, I have a pretty good understanding of, you know, obviously like height, like I can tell how big this person is. It's very blurry, but like obviously I have an understanding of how tall the person is. And then to an extent, like the body shape. The only thing I can't really get usually right off the bat is somebody's face. That's really difficult because I have to be like in your face to be able to see your face. And I think that's why I really like dating apps, because you have pictures of people and I can use, you know, technology. I actually never even use my phone for dating apps. I always use my iPad because it's a bigger screen, so I can like blow up their face that much more to see them. So, yeah, with dating apps, like I'm definitely like paying attention to appearances and whatnot. As well, but in person, it's more about the vibe. I'm very vibe centered. Like, I don't know, as I've lost my vision, I feel like I've just become way more in tune to people's vibes. And I'm also big into science. I mean, I have a Bachelor of Science, and I loved learning that like people actually like, we have our electromagnetic fields like constantly emitting from us as people. So you actually, I mean, like vibes are a real thing. Vibrations are a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think people who are blind are very good at picking, or I assume like if they put in the effort and they pay attention, we're very good at like picking up on people's vibes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes, you know, when it's online, you know, with dating apps, you're only getting pictures, you're only getting like descriptions, but you're not really able to pick up on the vibe.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Like, let's say you get a match on a dating app, and then you go to meet in real life. You know, how is that process? Be like, do the people you go on dates with in the past, were they aware that you were legally blind, or is that something you would tell them like in person? Or
I like never
did you
tell
put
that.
it on like your bio or anything like that?
No, I'm never upfront with that. Well, I guess, cause like, I don't know. I like to get to know people. And I think there's a lot of just misconceptions and stereotypes and ignorance around blindness and disabilities in general. So it's not really something like I advertise up front, which I know some people are like, no, like be proud. And I'm like, I am. But like some people will just from knowing like you have a disability or visual impairment will be nasty to you up front. And it's like, I just don't want to like, I deserve more than to deal with that. So I usually, you know, once I kind of develop some sort of trust, which obviously it doesn't have to be like a lot between a person, but have picked up enough on their vibe if they're like, you know, if I feel safe enough to kind of like open up about that. But just talking about like, you made me think. So I have gone on first dates from dating apps, and literally the person opened their mouth, like said hello, and I just immediately knew it was going absolutely nowhere.
Oh, dang.
I am.
Was it? What, they have like a super deep voice or something?
No, just people. I don't know. Have you not? To me, I feel like you can tell a lot from somebody's voice, and I just think maybe I'm a super analytical person. I also think I'm slightly like on the autism spectrum. Not that that's ever been diagnosed, but like just from learning about autism from other creators. Because I'm not like good with social constructs and whatnot. So my whole life I've just been studying people. And then when the blindness kicked in, I, obviously study voices even more. And it's not like you hear a voice and you're like, okay, I know everything about this person. But what I can tell from a voice is whether I'm going to get along with that person. I'm usually correct about it.
What's something about the voice that you are looking for specifically?
So I think with voices, you can actually distinguish pretty well, like the level of character a person has. And to me, that's very important because obviously I think anybody who's visually impaired or disabled has at least a little bit of character. I mean, you can't go through like what we go through without having developed as a person. I think that's the main thing for me with voices. I can hear the character and I can hear, I don't know, people just kind of like pick up tones and phrasing and just, it's hard to describe, but like based on whom they've been around in their life, like the kind of people they hang out with. And that was kind of more relevant in high school. Now people are like, as an adult, people are not really like clicking as hard. But like, I feel like when you were younger, you could hear just from someone's voice, like what kind of clique they were a part of, who were they hanging out with?
Oh, okay. So you're attaching like, is it like overly confident? Is it too passive?
Yeah.
Is
this the party
judgmental?
boy? Is this the nerdy boy? Is it, I don't know. I think you can tell a lot from a voice. And so, unfortunately I've gone on dates where as soon as they open their mouth and
you're cutthroat.
Well, but I'm not. And that's the problem because I've asked people this on like my channels before, like, what would you do in this situation? Should you just be like, nope, this isn't going to work. Goodbye. Or should you just like go through get through the first date? And I usually just am like, okay, I'm going to have my first date with this person. I'm going to give it a chance because, you could always be wrong. I could always be wrong.
Yeah.
And, just try to have the best time that I can. That's what I usually do. But I have a lot of people who are like, no, you should just like, for you and the other person's sake, just be like, oh, nope, this is not going to work. Bye-bye.
Dang. What kind of, I'm almost afraid to ask, but what kind of vibe do you get from my voice?
You have a really cool voice. I've heard your voice like, he's like,
that's good.
I've heard your voice before, but I've never heard it just like, for an extended period of time, just like talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you just seem like a chill person to me. I have good vibes from your voice.
Good. I was just checking, making sure I passed the voice test.
I mean, like I said, I think most like disabled people, visually impaired people pass my voice test because I think in general, we have a really good community. I think the only time that's not true is for people in our community that maybe haven't like worked through their disability yet. And that's the only time I've ever met people who maybe aren't like quite there yet, if that makes sense. Yeah.
No, I feel you on that. Mm-hmm. So let's say they passed the voice test and now you're into discussions. Mm-hmm. When do you bring up, your vision, or do you not bring it up on the first date? Is it like a second or third? Or, I mean, I would imagine that it might come up even naturally if maybe you have to look at a menu a certain way or
I'm very
wherever you're at.
I'm way too sneaky about it. I need to like
you're sneaky.
Well, for me, it's not too obvious, and I do think like that I'm legally blind.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming more and more obvious, but I still think it's at the point where someone's just kind of like, oh, okay, she kind of has something going on with her eyes. That's kind of it. Like,
Okay.
But usually with dates, I'm pretty like with the boyfriend I have now, we like met at a bar, and so I just arrived early so that I didn't have to find him.
You met naturally.
Oh, no. Like we met on a dating app, but like we met in person at a bar.
I was going to say, you have like the old school way of meeting someone.
Yeah. Actually,
we met at a bar.
He's actually the first. Yeah. He's actually the first like relationship I've had that I met like through a dating app. Like I've met other people through dating apps, but never ended up having like a relationship with them.
Yeah, well, I met my wife via Hinge, that dating app.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was on Tinder as well and Bumble for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a wild. It's like the wild. It's hard to say wild west out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's hard because obviously, like some people are dedicated to finding someone, and there's lots of people just casually on the app, and so. But for me, so like we met just like when I brought up my eyesight, we met at a bar and I got there early. So like I got there 15 minutes early and I was just standing by the door, and I like somewhat recognized him, but it's pretty easy. Like when you have Stargate, like basically if someone walks in and they stop right in front of you and kind of like stare, and plus usually if they're trying to recognize you from a dating app, they'll say your name. So he like walked in, stopped in front of me, was like Stephanie, and then I just like said his name back, and you know, that's how like we found each other, and then we went to our seats. And usually when I go to restaurants, I hate menus. I hate dealing with menus. So if it's a place that I don't plan on returning to, I just always ask like waiters like what their recommendation is. So I don't even have to deal with menu. And that's not something like that I'm trying to like hide from someone, but it's just I don't even like dealing with menus. It
could be a little trick though to hide something.
Yeah, no, yeah, it could. But it's just like easier. Like it's just, you know, if I really want to, like, you know, I'll go online beforehand and find the menu. I don't like dealing with menus like when I'm there. But actually when we were on our first date, he did see my Instagram. Like we started talking about content creating pretty early on. And so I showed him my Instagram, and I was only at like 4,000 followers on Instagram at the time, which is pretty wild. It was like 2.5 years ago. And so in my bio, it was like visually impaired or blind, whatever I said. So I was like, when I gave him my Instagram, I was like, well, I guess he's going to find out right now.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, he didn't even notice it, apparently, when we talked about it later on. He just like skipped the bio, went straight to the posts. And back then I wasn't really like posting about blindness that much, or I guess
classic guy there.
Yeah. He just went straight to looking at the photos and whatnot. And then I think he said only like a week or a couple weeks later, did he actually see one of my, I don't know if I was talking about blindness on my page at that point. I might have, I guess I started. So it was like, I thought actually from the beginning, he already knew because he saw my Instagram and he did not. So that was a little different. Usually it takes me a while though. I'm pretty nervous just because that's still like hard for me to tell people in person that are new to me, because I've definitely had a lot of bad experiences with people in the past, like about my visual impairment. So I'm still like, that's something I'm still working on.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Were those bad experiences, they weren't on dates, they were just people in passing?
Yeah, not on dates. I don't think on dates really. I mean, maybe I've had bad experiences, but it's not really someone intentionally trying to make me feel bad if it was a bad experience on a date. It's just someone like saying something and kind of like out of not knowing said something not that great. But yeah, no. So when it comes to when do I open that can of worms, I'm still pretty hesitant about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.